This is Casino Royale job, phase 3, day 1. So this is the chin up day. This is the Romanian deadlift. Okay, so you can start there, Mikey. So the first thing, very simply, is just a tight grip just outside shoulder width. So you want to grab the bar as tight as you can, and the tighter you grab it, the more your upper back muscles are going to flex and tense, the more stable you're going to be throughout the movement. So pin your shoulder blades back together, and that's perfect, good. So 2 or 3 main coaching points are to keep the bar as close as possible to your shins on the way down, to your legs on the way down, so the bar nearly rolls down your legs. And the more the bar actually keeps close to you and rolls down your legs, the further your hips are going to push backwards. The further your hips push backwards, the more your glutes and hamstrings are going to do the work. So how low do you have to go in an RDL? Not awful low, it depends on your flexibility. So anything past your knees is good for an RDL, and if you're very flexible, you'll be able to keep tension on the glutes and hamstrings down as far as the mid shins. So it depends on the person, but anything below the knees is good. And just last 2 or 3 reps. Pin your shoulder blades back tight as you can, chin down, head neutral, push your hips back, big stretch on the glutes and hamstrings. Excellent, well done. This is the deficit reverse lunge. Okay, you can start there, Mikey. So this exercise is very similar to the Bulgarian split squat in that it works the glutes a lot harder than most other single leg lunges or split squats. So you'll see from a deficit, he has to drop down that bit lower, and the glute has to work really, really hard on the leg that's on the plate to drag him forward again. So it's a dynamic movement, you're moving position as you're doing it, unlike a split squat where both your feet are fixed in the same position. And I find that you can get very strong on this movement, just like the Bulgarian split squat. So keep your shoulder blades pinned back, chin down, lean forward a little bit as you're going down, and drive forward. So we'll just do a few reps on the other leg. And keep shoulder blades pinned back, tight as you can. Chin down but chest up, and lean forward a little bit. Don't let the shoulders collapse, which is a common enough mistake on this one. Just because you lean forward doesn't mean your shoulders should round at the top. And drive forward. Excellent, well done. This is the wide grip pull-up. So you can start there, Mikey. So this is the harder type of pull-up because when you're using your grip this way in a pronated grip with your palms forward, you use less arms and more back. So your back muscles are far more isolated. But usually still on the program that I use with clients, I can get them to their first 10 pull-ups inside 3 to 6 months very comfortably. The only exception would be if they have a lot of body weight to lose. So within 3 to 6 months, if you can do 1 or 2 pull-ups, you should be able to add 1 or 2 pull-ups each month. As a man, you should be able to add 1 or 2 pull-ups each month, strength-wise. And it might not sound like much, but 1 pull-up each month for a few months in a row is a very, very successful stint of training, because you're taking your 1 or 2 rep max and turn it into your 10 rep max, which is the best way to build muscle. This is the barbell bench press. So big favorite, everyone who wants to go to the gym wants to increase their bench press. So here's a couple of tips that helped me literally bench press 10, 15 kg heavier in just 1 session when I was taught them first by my powerlifting coach. So you want to grab the bar as tight as you can, just outside shoulder width. So you go wider, you're going to feel more chest, narrower, you're going to feel more triceps. But for me, I like to be in between and not emphasizing chest or triceps too much. So the first tip is just to keep your feet in line or behind your knees. And once you have your feet in line or behind your knees, you want to push your knees out hard as you can and squeeze your glutes. And that's going to give you a really stable base. So feet planted into the ground, push your knees out hard as you can. And then once you're doing that, you're naturally going to feel more pushed into the bench. So as you start your reps then, and especially as your reps start to get difficult, you want to focus on pushing your head hard as you can against the bench and your upper back. So you have about 3 reps left. Go 3, and as you're struggling, as the set gets really hard, push your head back into the bench, push your back into the bench, and focus on that rather than trying to lift the weight up. and you'll feel a lot stronger. So the setup is everything on the barbell bench press. This is the best way to do the single arm row. So in my opinion, the single arm row is one of the exercises that people get wrong the most, or I see done wrong the most in gyms. You can start there, Mikey. I'll correct you. So the first thing I want you to do is put your knee in line with the other knee and then go really wide, okay? So if you go too far forward, bring this knee forward, you're gonna arch your back and round your back a bit more. So if you keep your knee in line with your other knee, your back will be naturally a lot flatter. The second thing I want you to do is put your hand like this and put your shoulder over your hand. If you sit back more into it, like that, and your shoulder isn't over your hand, again, you're gonna find it hard to keep your spine neutral. So if he does that, if he keeps his knee in line with the other knee and his shoulder over his hand, then it's less work. I won't say no work, but less work to do the right technique and to keep your spine neutral. So you can do a few reps. And then the last tip I'd give after that is go front to back with the row. Exactly, so you're letting it go forward and you're driving the elbow back towards your hip. Arch the back even more. Excellent. Go for 5 more. So knee in line with the other knee, shoulder over the hand, chin down neutral, and then row from front to back. Squeeze. Good, well done. This is the Arnold press. So, like all pressing movements where you're sitting on a bench, you want to make sure your feet are behind your knees, and that's going to give you a really stable base to start with. Okay, you can start the set. Go. And push your head back into the bench, and you're in a supinated grip at the bottom, and you're rotating the dumbbells as you go up, and finishing with a pronated grip at the top. And the reason you do this is to work the shoulders a little bit harder with that twist on the way up. So I love this exercise as something after your main primary lifts. I'd never really use this exercise as a main primary lift. I'd always use it after doing a heavier bench press or dip or dumbbell press first. And it's usually supersetted with another shoulder exercise. So you might do this with a lat raise and a band pull apart, or with seated lat raise and a face pull. So you use it like that in a superset or a tricep, and you really finish off the shoulders. So not as really heavy weight as a primary movement, more as a finisher for the shoulders. One more. Good, well done, excellent. This is the 1 1/4 face pull. So you can start there, Mikey. Just grab it and start the set straight away. So what we're trying to do here is have an extra bit of range of motion, or extra bit of time under tension rather, at the hardest part of the movement. So I want you to pull up higher towards your forehead, even higher. Exactly. And the higher your hands go, the more external rotation there'll be, and the healthier that is for the shoulder. So sometimes a lower row to the neck is good too, but for external rotation, which is that part of the movement, you want your hands to be as high as possible. And what we're doing there with the 1/4 rep is adding in that time under tension at the hardest part of it. So if you sit down too much or look at your phone too much, which is basically every one of us at this day and age, you're sitting down in that shrugged over position and you're looking down like this. So the face pull is the exact opposite position to that seated desk position, or sitting down looking at your phone, or even driving. And to do these once or twice a week is crucial, in my opinion, for doing keeping your shoulders healthy while you're bench pressing. Good, well done. This is the seated lat raise. So this, just by being seated, makes the lat raise an awful lot harder, and you have to be a lot stricter with technique. You can start, Mikey. Chest up, shoulders back, yep, and lift up. And that's perfect technique. So when you're doing a lat raise, you want to think about, if you had a bucket of water in your hand, you'd be pouring it forward rather than letting it flow out backwards. Okay, so a lot of people, when they're doing lat raises, open up their hands like that, and they don't really isolate their deltoids then at all. So you want to pour forward, bend your elbow a little bit, and that's perfect. And even if you were to touch his shoulder, you'd feel it working far harder. And that's what an isolation exercise like lat raise is all about. If you're not isolating the shoulder or whatever muscle you're trying to work with an isolation exercise, then it's completely pointless. You know, compounds, sometimes you can use a bit of momentum, things like that, but the more isolation the exercise, generally the more useless it is to be using momentum. And chest up, shoulders back, lift out sideways. Perfect. Okay. This is the weighted dip, so you can grab the belt there, Mikey. So what we'll go through first is how to put the belt on properly. So this is very simple, but a lot of people get it wrong at the start just because they've never been taught. So just unclip it there again and squat down. Okay, so squat down and put the clip through the other side first.
Here.
Yeah, so put it through that side first and then put it through the weight plate and then onto the far side that the initial clip is on. So the other side, the other side, exactly, yeah. And when you do it like that, the weight will hang nice and balanced in the middle as opposed to going over to one side, which is what happens a lot of people when they're starting weighted dips. If they either don't clip it through the far side, they put it through the weight first and it hangs too low and it's very wobbly and it's very unstable, or they put it onto this, clip it back on the same side, and that makes it hang over to your left or your right. So it might not seem that important, but it's actually really, really important, especially as you're trying to progressive overload or hit PBs each week. So after that, his hand position there is perfect. A little bit wider than shoulder width and get as low as possible, big range of motion so his shoulders come below his elbows. And then after that, you can train really, really hard to failure very safely, unlike a barbell. Let's go, push, 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 lock out, lock out, lock out, finish it. Good, well done. So you want to be training to failure and increasing either the amount of reps you're doing with the same weight or be increasing the amount of weight you're lifting each week. And that's usually very realistic for most people for 12, 24 weeks in a row.